How many were not here yesterday evening? Oh. Was the drama performed last night also?
No.
No. Oh. That's why you came this evening, you didn't come yesterday evening, because you want to see the drama. I heard it's a good one. Yeah? I better hurry up so you can see the drama. Yesterday, neither in the daytime nor in the nighttime, Lord Nrsingadev appeared. Because he's Bhaktavatsala. And that means he's very kind to his devotee. And one of his devotees is Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma gave his word that Hiranyakashipu couldn't be killed in either the daytime or the nighttime, or inside or outside, or land, sea, or air, and this thing and that thing. And the Lord is Bhaktavatsala. He upholds the word of his devotee. But he outsmarted Smarty Pants. He who wanted to be immortal thought he could smart himself into being immortal, but it didn't work. Because the Lord he's the intelligence of the intelligent. The prowess of all powerful men. He's the supreme power. And he overpowered the person who thought that he was so powerful. There's this nice description in Ramayana. There's different versions of Ramayana, of course. But in one version of Ramayana, Ravana was concerned. Not afraid, but he was concerned. Ram seems to be so powerful. I need some additional allies. Who is the most powerful Daitya in the whole of the universe? Bali Maharaj. Because Bali Maharaj, like me, he overwhelmed the king of heaven and all the demigods. And I know where I can find him. He's down at the bottom of the universe, because after Vamana tricked him and tied him up after the 2 paces of land, Vamana is his gatekeeper. That's how powerful Vali is. Vamana, Vishnu, is his gatekeeper. So that's where Ravana went. And when he went, Vamana wouldn't let him in. And he tried to force his way. You don't force your way against the feet of Vamana. He kicked him and he went flying. Then he said, you know what? Bali can take care of himself. You can come in. So he entered, and Ravana gave his whole sob story about Lord Vishnu, our mutual enemy, but I need your help. And there's some more detail. And Bali said, come with me. You see this mountain of gold? See if you can lift it. You know, he was able to lift Mount Kailash. He couldn't lift it. And he tried and he tried and he tried and he couldn't lift it. And Bali said, you know what that mountain of gold is? That's Hiranyakashipu's earring. When Hiranyakashipu was killed by Lord Nrsingadev, one of his earrings fell down here. As humongous as Hiranyakashipu was, he was no match for Lord Vishnu. And you want my help to defeat Lord Vishnu? Go back to Lanka. But Ravana he could see, but he could not see. Pashyati na pashyati. Well, he may be powerful, but I'm more powerful. Demoniac mentality. And he was finished. So following his being finished, what happened next? All the associates, generals, and other demoniac leaders that were comrades of Hiranyakashipu, they all went charging at once at Lord Nrsingadev. Get him! Get revenge! Our leader has been killed. So Lord Nrsingadev manifested more arms and roared more loudly and dismantled everybody, finished them single-handedly, or many-handedly. Finished. And he was roaring. And the demigods offered their prayers, and that was not adequate. Although their prayers were beautiful, eloquent, choice poetry, decorated with literary ornaments and so forth. They were scholarly, devoted, but inadequate. The goddess of fortune, they tried to get her. You go forward. You're the goddess of fortune. You're his internal potency. She was afraid, having seen that angry form of the Lord. So then Lord Brahma and the others, they requested Prahlad. So that's what we're going to be discussing. Prayers of Prahlad. The first 7 of the verses are the humility of Prahlad. Let's go to, this is from chapter 9. Now I'm seated over here, and the images are going to be over there, so you have to have a rubber neck, and you can go back and forth. So that's Lord Nrsingadev and Mayapur. No, can I have the slide changer? Can I do it myself? Normally I like to sit over there, then you can look up and see the screen, but I've done it a little differently today. So Prahlad, according to what Prahlad says in chapter 10, he was sent from Vaikuntha. He's a Vaikuntha resident, a Vaikuntha Vasi. He was sent from Vaikuntha to this earthly planet to teach the way of devotional service, the way of bhakti. So the entry point into the realm of bhakti, of course, is faith, but also humility. And offering all respect to others with no respect for expecting respect in return. And then he speaks, I'm disqualified. I have this disqualification, that disqualification, the other disqualification. The demigods, they're perfectly qualified. But somehow, because they're my superiors, they've asked me to come, so I have to obey my superiors. So, but why would you even listen to me? There's only one reason I can think of, and that is Narada Muni. Narada Muni gave me a drop, just a little fragment of bhakti, and you're so appreciative of the fragment of bhakti that you placed your hand upon my head, a benediction you haven't given to anyone else, even the goddess of fortune, or any of the other great personalities in the universe. You're most merciful. So here I am offering my prayers. Then he makes this the way of devotional service, one of the important teachings of devotional service, or way of life of devotional service, is we don't rely on material qualification. If one has material qualification, if you have knowledge, you have wealth, or you have beauty, or you can sing, or you can dance, or you can decorate the deity nicely, you can cook nicely, you can do something nicely. You do that for Krishna. And if you can't, you offer whatever you have. And you offer that to Krishna with devotion. And Krishna will accept. Doesn't have to be something opulent. Doesn't have to be something refined. Just offer what you have with devotion. One of the devotees, the early days of the Hare Krishna movement, Prabhupada he wanted art. He wanted his paintings illustrated, his books illustrated with paintings. He wanted devotees to worship Panchatattva. He called it the Guru Garanga altar. So he wanted the temples, or their preaching centers, we didn't have temples then, to be decorated with nice paintings, and there weren't paintings. There were posters available in Tier 1 imports, but many of them were impersonal. So he asked devotees, do you think you can paint? And they said, whatever you want me to do, that's what I can do. So they started painting. One devotee told me, they asked Prabhupada, I've never held a paintbrush in my hand before, should I take some art classes? Prabhupada said, that's not necessary. Listen, Lord Brahma has designed this body in such a way that if you do something with genuine devotion for Krishna, Krishna will give you the ability. So just paint for Krishna and Krishna will give you the ability. And this is one of our most outstanding artists. Now, some others had some art experience and some had none. But on the order of the spiritual master, for his pleasure, they tried. And Krishna gave the ability. The initial paintings were very crude, rough, but very quickly skill came. And isn't it some of the most outstanding paintings ever have come from BBT artists? Compare any of the pastimes, particularly the old style, and the ISKCON art is really fantastic. Anyway, so Prahlad is teaching that the way to attract Krishna is not by eloquence or high education or some gift of good karma, and you offer that wealth or beauty or strength or knowledge or fame or renunciation. You offer that because you have this sukriti. That's not what attracts Krishna. The logic is, the demigods, they have all those things. And he didn't become calm. So that's not what does it. What does it is the strength and the purity of devotion. So by the grace of Narada, I have that good fortune. So now we're going to go to text 11. And there's the verse. Translation reads, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always fully satisfied in himself. Nijalabha Purno. Therefore, when something is offered to him, the offering by the Lord's mercy is for the benefit of the devotee. For the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in a mirror is also seen to be decorated. And here's a nice Oriental lady looking at her reflection in the mirror. And she's decorating herself by seeing the reflection in the mirror, and she's not literally decorating the reflection, she's decorating herself. Prabhupada gave this very same example about the deity. When the deity is decorated nicely, he's Krishna, he doesn't need anything. He's Sadaishvarya Purna, or as this verse says, Nija Labha Purno. He's full in himself, doesn't need anything, Atmarama. So when the devotees make nice plans, as I'm sure the altar was decorated very nicely under Shringa Chaturdasi, nice garlands, nice ornaments, nice dress, Nice, nice, nice. Nice offerings of cooked food. And who is the one that benefits? The devotee. The devotee becomes decorated by decorating Krishna. Yes? That's what Prahlad is saying. Now, of course, the deity becomes decorated, or the Lord is glorified in choice words. Uttama shloka. But the person who's offering the choice words is the one that gets the benefit. Just like this image is showing. It's a metaphor, yata. This service of glorifying the Lord by hearing, chanting, and so on is not, of course, meant for the benefit of the Lord. Semicolon. The devotional service is recommended for the benefit of the devotee. Now, the devotee isn't thinking, hey, this is for my benefit. That's cheating. Although the transcendental reality is, he is the one that's benefiting, just like when Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to Maharaj Parikshit and all the sages, including there's Narada Muni, and there's Vyasadeva, sitting hearing his son speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, and so many other sages. So the person speaking is benefiting, the person hearing is benefiting. And they both achieve spiritual perfection just by that hearing and chanting. Although the topic is the personality of Godhead, the ones benefiting are the speaker and the hearer. Although the object is the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada explains this way: we are a reflection of God. We are a reflection of God. Maybe some of you know this phrase from the Bible. Prabhupada would quote it sometimes. Man is made in the image of God. He would say, some people make the argument of anthropomorphism. That's a fancy word. Anthropomorphism is, we look like this, so God must look like we look. That's anthropomorphism. It's the other way around. God looks as he looks, and we're created in his image. Man is made in the image of God. He has two hands. We have two hands. He has a head and two legs. We have a head and two legs. We're made after the image of God. And when the form of Krishna is decorated, when Krishna is decorated, the devotees and all living entities become decorated automatically or devotionally. Next, we're just going to cover 4 verses quickly. This last line I put in large letters, Puyeta yenahi puman anuvarnatena. We'll read the translation. Hopefully. There we go. Therefore, although I was born in a demoniac family, I may, without a doubt, offer prayers to the Lord with full endeavor, as far as my intelligence allows. Anyone who has been forced by ignorance to enter the material world may be purified of material life if he offers prayers to the Lord and hears the Lord's glories. So at the very beginning, he said, I'm not qualified. But now he's saying, the good news is, Krishna is very merciful. Although I'm not qualified, he's very merciful. Even I have negligible speck of nothing to offer, he's very kind. And because he's very kind, he'll accept the offering of my prayers. I'm doing so under the order of my superiors, the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma. I'm not just acting independently, I'm acting according to their instruction. And although my words are imperfect and crude, I don't even have an education. I'm just 6 years old. And the demigods, they're the topmost people in the universe. They're highly educated. But because something is being offered with devotion, then I, who am not qualified, can become purified. So the message for us, the practical application is, don't be, two things. Don't be proud of the asset that comes with piety. Because the assets that come with piety, Queen Kunti says, Janma, Aishvarya, Shruta, and Shri. Good birth, aristocratic family, well-to-do family, Shruta, good education, Shri, beauty. These things, if one becomes proud of the asset of piety, it blocks the heart from feelingly offering prayers. Better to be very humble. Whether you have an asset or you don't, better to be humble. Now, Prahlad is highly qualified, but his humility doesn't see that. He sees himself unqualified. And in that mood of humility, he's offering his prayers according to his capacity. Although I'm uneducated, according to my capacity, I'm going to offer some prayers. Prabhupada's purport teaches, none of one's material qualification, high family, to be rich, to be aristocratic, or be very beautiful, will engage one in devotional service. However, instead, with devotion one should feel, God is great and I am very small. Therefore my duty is to offer my prayers to the Lord. Only on this basis can one understand and render service to the Lord. I remember hearing directly, this is from his purport, I remember hearing in one lecture, same thing, Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is very simple. God is very great, I am very small, therefore I should serve him. That is Krishna consciousness. Then he would say, how great is God that they do not know? But if they come to know how great is God, then they'll feel, oh, God is very great, and I am very small. Therefore I should serve him. Humility precedes devotion. Serve, we're going to. We're constitutionally servants. We're serving one thing or another thing, one person or other person, one situation or another person. It's our constitutional nature. We can't get away from that. But to serve God, that's the place where our serving propensity should be reposed or directed. A nice example of this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was highly elevated in knowledge, highly elevated by birth, highly elevated in every possible way, the topmost of the spiritual orders of sannyas, menial service of cleaning the Gundicha temple in preparation of Lord Jagannath going there at the end of Rath Yatra. He and his associates using brooms and buckets and water and gathering all the particles of dust and sand and everything they could gather to cleanse the temple so Lord Jagannath could have a clean place, an inviting place to go. That's the way of a devotee. Even it's described, the queens of Dwarka, they had thousands of maidservants. But what would they do? They would clean the temple, the place that Krishna had made for them. And it was already clean, and they already had maidservants, but they did anyway because that was their mood. They wanted to make things nice for Krishna. This is the mood of a devotee. And Prahlad is also teaching us the way of spiritual life and devotional service. Prabhupada explains in the purport this reference from the Bhagavad Gita verse, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yasyasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. And the message is, the way to understand Krishna, the only way one can understand Krishna is through the medium of devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, Vishate tadanantaram, you enter into the kingdom of God by that power of bhakti. Just 2 more verses and we'll conclude. So text 13. O my Lord, all the demigods headed by Brahma are sincere servants of your lordship who are situated in a transcendental position. Therefore, they are not like us. That's himself and Hiranyakashipu. Your appearance in this fearsome form is your pastime for your own pleasure. Such an incarnation is always meant for the protection and improvement of the universe. So now this is another important element that Prahlad reveals. That is, from the very beginning of his prayers, the Lord is showing anger. But he's not at all afraid, because he knows that anger is meant for that fellow over there, Hiranyakashipu. And for the devotee, you're very peaceful and calm, and that's the side of you that the devotees see. So this anger thing, that's your pastime. It's just for your pleasure. And it's true. 2 ways it's true. When the Supreme Lord becomes angry, we discussed this the other day, it's devoid of the modes of nature. Because the anger that we know, Rajogun, Tamogun, Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna Samudbhava. That's the anger that we know. But where does the anger that we know come from? From the place where there's no modes of nature. From the kingdom of God. So anger exists there, but without the modes of nature. There's no contamination. And so, why is he showing this form? It's for his pleasure. Would you like to hear something nice about the pleasure of the Supreme Lord? It's very confidential. And you can tell others it's that kind of confidential. Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, he likes a tussle. But there's no one to tussle with in Vaikuntha. But he likes to tussle. And so Jai and Vijay, his gatekeepers, they were intimately serving him. They knew the heart of Narayana. And so within their hearts, they offered a prayer. Our dear Lord, we know that you have this chivalry spirit in you. You like a tussle. But who is there that can do that? So if you so desire, we can do that. They didn't say anything, they just privately prayed like that. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. And so the Lord reciprocated with them. All right, you desire to serve me, give me this tussle. Very good. For his pleasure. For his pleasure. And give the devotee some opportunity to do some service too. And that's the pleasure of the devotees, to do some service for the Lord, even if it's, give him a tussle. But you have to be really qualified to give the Lord a tussle, otherwise you get the Hiranyakashipu treatment. But even grandfather Bhishma did it. And he is a Mahajan. He took a vow to kill Krishna's best friend Arjuna on one condition, unless Krishna breaks his vow. Then he will not fight. That was his vow. And he knew Krishna would break his vow in order to supersede that with something that's more important to him than anything, and that's his devotee. He's Bhaktavatsala. And when Krishna did, grandfather Bhishma was so happy. He dropped his weapons. Krishna, smash me. Because it was for the pleasure of Krishna. A pure devotee doesn't know anything other than the pleasure of Krishna. They don't do anything other than the pleasure of Krishna, even if they're taking the position of being opposed to Krishna. It's for the pleasure of Krishna. And Krishna takes the position for the pleasure of his devotee. Including this for the pleasure of his devotee. So Prahlad concludes, such an incarnation is always meant for the protection and improvement of the universe. Here's Prabhupada's purport. When the Supreme Lord appears in this material world in his various incarnations, he performs two functions. One, saving the devotee. And two, vanquishing the demon. Such pastimes as those of Nrsingadev are certainly not meant to create a fearful situation for the devotees, but nonetheless, the devotees, being very simple and faithful, were afraid of the fierce incarnation of the Lord. And there's many such incarnations of the Lord, big collage of Krishna's different pastimes. Here comes the verse. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya shaduskritam dharma sangstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Sambhavami. Sambhavami means he advents himself. He doesn't require anyone's assistance. He's not obliged to do anything. He does for his own pleasure. And he does for those three reasons. Now our last verse for this evening. My Lord Nrsingadev, please, therefore, cease your anger now that my father, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, has been killed, since even saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake. All the worlds have achieved great satisfaction because of the death of this demon. Now they are confident of their happiness, and they will always remember your auspicious incarnation in order to be free from fear. The position Vaikuntha means no anxiety, no fear. So the place of no fear is not some macho guy walking around saying, look out, I have no fear. Not that. That's a bluff. The real no fear position is Vaikuntha. And the real Vaikuntha position is attachment, feeling protected by the all-powerful Supreme. What's that? Scorpion. And when people, have you ever seen a scorpion? Anyone seen a scorpion? Okay. I was visiting in Italy once. We had a meeting in Villa Vrindavan, and they were doing some renovation in the building, so they put me in a room upstairs, and there was a roommate, a little black scorpion, and it was his kingdom. And so every morning, he was very regulated. At a certain time, he got his tail and started wagging his tail and circumambulated the room like staking out his territory. And I didn't bother him, and so he didn't bother me. We just kind of coexisted. But this is my kingdom. You're a guest in my kingdom, so don't mess. Okay, we'll be peaceful together. And then I noticed one other thing. At a certain time, after he did his staking out his kingdom, he would curl up in a little ball, took a nap. So that was like day 3. So I saw that happen. So I got a broom and then whisked him out of the room. He wasn't hurt. He just rolled out of the room and walked down the hall and found another kingdom. But I told the president, you gave me a roommate, and it wasn't a friendly guy. It was a scorpion. He said, what do you look like? And then he said, oh, that kind won't hurt you, don't worry. He said, I'm not going to take my chances. But scorpions are known that they will unprovoked, they'll strike. They see something moving, and they'll strike. Prabhupada's purport. The most important point of this verse is that although saintly persons never desire the killing of any living entity, they take pleasure in the killing of envious living entities like snakes and scorpions. There's a snake, a cobra. Prabhupada told the story. Once he was visiting Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at his headquarters at the Chaitanya Math. Maybe some of you have been there in Mayapur. And while Prabhupada was there was this big commotion outdoors, and there was a whole crowd of noisy Bengali men making a lot of noise about something, and Prabhupada got a little closer, and it was a cobra, and they were trying to corner the cobra. Bhaktisiddhanta heard the noise. He came to his balcony, second floor, looked over, and called out loudly, "Kill it!" So they did what he said, and Prabhupada said, when I heard him say that, I thought a sadhu was supposed to be nonviolent, and why did he say kill it? And it troubled my heart for some time until I read this verse of the Bhagavatam. Then I could understand why he said so, on the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because unprovoked, the cobra or the scorpion will sting or bite and can cause death, unprovoked. When mosquitoes, Prabhupada had this habit, that when mosquitoes were around, he wouldn't swat them. But in his words, once they attacked, then you can swat them. When he would say, stick their nozzle into your skin, then you can swat them. But until then, you coexist. But when they attack, but snakes and scorpions, unprovoked, they'll attack, and so they're in a different category. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, according to Prahlad Maharaj, and he's a Mahajan, right? Whoops. Hiranyakashipu was killed because he was worse than a snake or a scorpion, and therefore everyone was happy. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when discussing Krishna's pastimes and a demon is killed, the audience goes, Haribo! I remember as a new devotee wondering, what's all that about? Somebody gets killed and you go, Haribo! What kind of culture is this? But then I could understand. It's Krishna's mercy to give protection to the devotees, and the demon gets liberated. Haribo! A bad person gets freed from all of their sinful activities. Here's this picture of Bhaktisiddhanta, this pastime that I narrated. Now, another topic is the topic of fear. And as we know, fear is one of the eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing. The mature stage of cleansing of ignorance is that fear is gone. So, bhayam. And the process of devotional service, the process of chanting specifically, is cleansing. Ceto darpana marjanam. The heart becomes cleansed of impure things. And when that cleansing of ignorance, that in the root of all ignorance is mama ignorance. She's the mama from which many babies come. And that's ignoring Krishna. And when that ignorance is cleared, then one has Krishna's shelter. There's this nice verse, one of my favorites these days. One whose intelligence is constantly disturbed by his falsely identifying himself with the temporary material world can achieve real freedom from fear only by worshiping the lotus feet of the infallible Supreme Lord. In such devotional service, all fear ceases entirely. Nice, isn't it? So that's the positive. Then there's the reverse that says, where does fear come from? And fear come from bhayam dvitiyam abhiniveshita ksyat. This is the verse that precedes the one we just recited. Bhayam means fear. Syat means arises. Fear arises. Dvitiya abhinivesh. Abhinivesh means absorption in. And dvitiya means duality, or seeing things as existing separate from their source. That's duality. So when you're absorbed in things that are seen as separate from Krishna, fear arises. So not only fear arises, ishadape tasya viparya yo smritihi. You forget who you are, viparya smritihi. You're lost. You're in, la la land. Tan maya yato buddha abhajetam. Maya covers the intelligence of the individual, but there's one good solution. That good solution to overcome fear is devotional service under the guidance of Guru Deva Atma. Nice. Prahlad is teaching same thing as this 11th canto section. How to overcome fear. Take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Well, we're attached to the temporary. That's why we don't. We know better. We know what the right thing to do is. We're devotees, but we still hold on to the temporary. And so, rattling around in there, ruling our lives to some degree, is fear. I was sharing this with the devotees sometime during this visit, I forget when. For this month of April, it's almost over, I've visited 18 different colleges. From MIT down to Austin, Texas, and many places in between. And one of those places was fantastic. It was at Texas A&M at College Station. And if you take sannyas one day and you want a nice preaching field, go there. It's a nice place to go. After the 60 students it was Good Friday. So on Good Friday, the university canceled the bus system at 2 o'clock. But they didn't announce it in advance, so many students couldn't come because there weren't buses to get them to the program. But still there were 60 to 70 guests. It was really interesting. Then anyway, there was a line of people, and one of the persons, I'm a PhD student, and my whole life has been ruled by selfishness. Seems like a perfect candidate for bhakti. My whole life has been ruled by selfishness. I've always been thinking, kartaham, I'm the doer. I set goals for myself, I apply myself to the goals, and I achieve my goals. And I've come to the stage of realizing I'm totally selfish. And with that selfishness comes fear. What if I don't succeed? What's going to happen? What if I don't get the grade that I want, or the career that I want, or this that I want? And not everybody gets what they want, but I'm thinking I'm going to get whatever I want. I'm totally selfish, and I'm filled with fear. How do I get on the other side of it? Wow. Let's sign you up for your Bhagavad Gita class. Or in Srimad Bhagavatam class, and the process of devotional service. Because it's meant to take us on the other side of those binding forces that hold us to the material world. What keeps us going? Birth after birth, after birth, after birth, after birth, after birth, after birth. This whole idea of false ego that says, I'm meant to be the enjoyer. I can do it. I have credential. I've done my piety. With my piety, I got my intelligence. With my intelligence, I apply myself and I succeed. And we're all trained up that way. Which one of us wasn't trained up that way? We're all trained up that way. And that's the society that we live in. Society of false ego. And we're supposed to get on the other side of it? I think it's time to end. That's a sign. So, the teachings of Prahlad, back again. The teachings of Prahlad. Prahlad came to this world to teach the way of getting on the other side. By his example and by his words, both. Achar and prachar. By his example and by his words. He's the model, he's a role model of how to achieve the goal. Just read his prayers very carefully. You got a map, you got your GPS, and you got the goal, and you got the means to get to the goal. Just keep following it. Follow Prahlad and you'll get there. You'll go beyond the position of fear. Here's the translation of that verse. Then I think we're nearly done. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in the external, illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency for illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and his very life and soul. So I'm going to end. There's more, but I think it's time to end. Please read Srimad Bhagavatam. It will carry you to the spiritual world. Fasten your seatbelt. Listen very carefully. Get ready for a ride from material existence into the spiritual realm. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai. Gaur Premanandi ki jai. I have a quick thing. I brought with me some flash drives of